Hey guys, my name's Reed from Power Socket Shop, and today we're going to be replacing the circuit breaker on the back of the Strike Force. So the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the two battery bolts. You're going to need a 7/16 inch wrench or socket wrench like I have to remove these, and after you get them removed you're going to want to take off the rubber battery boots on the positive and negative cables and just set those aside for later. So now that we have those removed, we're going to go around to the back of the chair and remove the circuit breaker itself. You're going to need a 14mm box end wrench to do this. Once you get the nut broken loose, you can do the rest by hand. Next, we're going to need to remove the battery cable harness. The easiest way to do this is to press on the top side of the plug and pull backwards to release the clip holding it in the power module. It should come out pretty easy. After that, the circuit breaker and battery harness should be loose, so you should be able to just pull it out of there and we can move on to the next step. So this is how the circuit breaker and battery harness should look once it's removed. You can see on the left side we have the negative cable and plug that goes into the power module, and on the right side we just have the positive battery cable. To remove the cables from the circuit breaker itself, you're going to need a needle nose pliers and a Phillips head screwdriver. You're going to want to use the needle nose pliers to hold on to the two metal tabs while you're unscrewing the two cables, just to make sure you don't damage them in the process. At this point, you're going to want to grab your new circuit breaker so we can get started on reinstalling the cables. It might even be a good idea to mark the top and the bottom like I have in the video, just to help you out and make sure you get it in there the correct way. During this step, make sure to use the needle nose pliers while tightening down the screws, because like I said before, you can bend those metal tabs. It can actually crack the circuit breaker, and you don't want that, especially if it's a brand new one. Now that we got both of those screws tight, we're going to do one final inspection just to make sure everything is right before we install it back on the chair. So you're going to want to make sure that the top side of the circuit breaker is facing upwards, and then we're going to set it in between the batteries and in between the motors. It doesn't have to be perfect, you kind of just want it in this general area, and then we'll go around to the back side of the chair and actually fasten it to the bracket that holds it in place. This next step is pretty self-explanatory, but it can be a little tricky just because we're tight on space here. But basically all we're going to want to do is get the circuit breaker back through the hole in that bracket, and then we'll grab that washer and that nut and get that tightened back up, and then we'll move to the front of the chair. Alright guys, we're almost done. The last couple things we need to do is plug the battery harness back into the power module, reinstall the battery bolts and battery boots, and then we should be good to go. So the trickiest part about this step is reinstalling the battery boots. We're going to start with the negative side here, so what you're going to want to do is grab the smaller black wire, which is actually one of the fan wires for the two fans underneath the power module there. And you're going to want to feed that through the back of the battery boot. And once you get a hold of that, you're going to want to do the same thing with the thicker battery cable. And once you get both of those through there, you're going to want to make sure to install the fan wire on top of the battery cable, just to make sure that the battery cable has priority over the fan cable. Alright guys, now we are done. The last thing we're going to do is just make sure that the rubber battery boots are covering both of the terminals, and then we're going to tilt the chair back down and tighten everything back up, and then we're ready to go. Thanks for watching guys. Again, this is Reed from Power Socket Shop. If you guys have any video ideas or tutorial ideas, feel free to let me know and I will make those as soon as I can.